started.
Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing? I mean, nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grief process. You know, with roughly 100 million caregivers in the U.S. and Canada alone, that's about a third of the population. That means that everyone probably knows someone caring for a loved one. Join Dave and his guests now and every Wednesday at noon Pacific Time as they discuss avoiding caregiver burnout and surviving grief. So find a comfortable place to relax, kick up your feet, and prepare to feel better and to receive practical tips and tools that you can start using immediately to get you through today and every day so you can survive your tomorrows. But not just survive, but to live life fully and abundantly. Yes, you heard me right. That is a possible goal to achieve. And now, here's your host, Dave Nassaney.
Hey, from Los Angeles, the Big LA. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, coming to you live globally through the famous World Blog Talk Radio Network, as well as iTunes and YouTube and many other platforms. And our goal here is to do our very best to help you avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout. I know it's nasty. Well, we have an exciting show planned for you today with my lovely co-host, Adrienne Gruberg from the Caregiver Space. Say hello, Adrienne.
Hello, Adrienne.
Say hello, Gracie. And today we'll be interviewing a very interesting guest. Not that all our other guests aren't interesting, but this one is extra interesting. Lisa Cini, I hope I'm saying that right, founder of bestlivingtech.com. So think of Sharper Image meets AARP. She searches the world for the best products to embrace living as we age, like Adrienne and I. Her design company, Mosaic Design Studio, is the nation's leading provider of design services for senior living. I guess we're seniors. So you will not want to miss this show. Stay tuned. I am your host, Dave Nassaney, and this show is to caregivers of every single kind. And I know the one thing we know about caregivers is that they are caring and selfless and sacrificial souls, but they have this tiny little problem, not very tiny. They are prone to burnout because they tend to put everyone else's needs above their own. And we can learn something from the airlines because, they tell us that in the event of the, I'm going to get I have an oxygen mask now that I use on television. I'm going to just let it drop so that people can see. When your oxygen mask falls out of the ceiling, put your mask on first before you help your loved ones with their mask. And why do they say that? Because they know that you will burn out if you don't put your needs above the needs of others, just like caregivers. Well, I must say that like 500 times a week. But we also talk about grief and loss here and the devastating effects that it can have on us. It throws us into this thing called the grief process. And it could take days or weeks or months or years. God, some people never get through their grief. And I'm sorry, but there are some who say that, everyone has to grieve in their own time. Well, yes. But indefinitely is not an option as far as I'm concerned. So if you're having trouble getting through your grief, you feel like you're stuck, we can help you out. So I want to take this time and thank my last week's guest, the director of the just-released documentary yesterday, The Weight of Honor, Stephanie Howard, premiering at the Reagan Library on this Friday, Veterans Day. If you're in the area in Southern California, you need to be there, November 19th, about 10 a.m. And if you've never been at the Reagan Library, it's a good excuse to go. I mean, I'm trying to talk myself into going because I haven't been there yet. And just a reminder, you can listen to that interview and all of our interviews right on our website, caregiverscaregiver.com. And we are so excited. Can you tell that my new book is a bestseller on Amazon in 3 categories, and we're doing a national media and book tour. And we are believing we're going to make the New York Times best-selling list. By golly. And this Saturday in Santa Clarita, we have our 3rd book signing at Barnes & Noble in Santa Clarita, like I said, located at the intersections of Valencia and Magic Mountain Boulevards. For you locals out there, we had the first 2. One was in South Carolina, Charleston, and the other one was just in Tri-Cities, which is Johnson City, Tennessee. So it's My Life Too, Reclaim Your Caregiver Sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. And in the last 4 weeks, no wonder I'm so tired. I've already appeared on 12 morning shows all across the country, from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to the Tri-Cities in Virginia, down to South Carolina and up to Illinois, and all 4 major networks. And even your dog's excited about that, Adrienne.
That's not my dog.
Oh, really?
It's not my dog
Well, I
either.
guess Lisa's dog is excited.
No.
Anyway, this Tuesday, maybe it's my dog. This Tuesday on November 14th, I will be appearing on the CBS 11 morning show in Savannah, Georgia, promoting my new book. And then it's off to Atlanta to meet more producers, to book more shows. So I'm just going 100 miles an hour. And, as long as the Lord gives me the energy, I'm going to do it. Last year, I couldn't even walk because my back was in bad shape, but now I'm healed and I'm able to chase buses and airplanes and subways and all of that. So enough of that. A big welcome to my guest, Lisa Cini. Am I saying that right, Lisa?
You are. If we were in Italy, it would be Cini, but here it's Cini.
Cini, Lisa Cini.
Lisa Cini. My daughter lives over in Rome, goes to school there. And so
all you guys from Sicily and the like. So welcome to the show. We're excited to have you on. And why don't you take a minute or two, Lisa, and introduce yourself. I like to ask my guests, just who is Lisa Cini and why were you put on this earth?
Well, I'm a daughter, and I'm a sister, and I'm a mother and a wife. I'm an entrepreneur and a writer and a traveler, creator. I'm a granddaughter, and a friend, I would say, and an artist. So that kind of sounds like a lot of things, but those are the things that are very dear to me and make me happy. Now, from a professional standpoint, I'm an interior designer.
Is that what you do, or is that who you are? All those things.
That is who I am. I think if I had to replace one word on my tombstone with it would be clarity. So I try to bring clarity to the world.
That is
worthwhile.
That's something that is needed, clarity. Don't you agree, Adrienne?
Yes, it's very worthwhile.
Okay.
I think we're in a place right now where we have overload, just like caregivers.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody is a caregiver now. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you're caring for something, somebody, too much, you're overloaded, understaffed, overpaid, overstaffed.
Underpaid, yes.
Underpaid and understaffed.
That's right. It was wishful thinking, right? So I started off my career, I was an acute care designer, and then I went into senior living, and I was an in-house director of design. So for assisted living and memory care all over the nation and North America. And then almost 20 years ago, I started my own company called Mosaic Design Studio, and my team and I have done thousands of homes. We've really got to learn from the best of the best and help people embrace their quality of life. And then about 3.5 years ago, I started really getting on this geek fest about technology and how we could age in place. And I wrote a book about it called Senior Living Reimagined, How Technology Will Change the Face of Senior Living. And at that time, my clients were all just like, if they had Wi-Fi, they thought it was a big deal. And the more research I did, the more I found that 90% of the folks didn't want to go into these wonderful places I was designing. And so what are we going to do for the 90% that don't want to go in or can't afford it? And then I just found that my own family was in that situation.
Go in? I'm sorry for that.
You take away your independence. Your independence, it's very costly, the private pay, but independence, freedom. I kind of give the analogy that I don't know that baby boomers necessarily understand as much. Certainly my generation does not. Is that when we moved neighborhoods from the front porch to the backyard, and we became very decentralized. My grandmother, who's 95, is a front porch gal. And I live in a neighborhood that's front porch, and all your neighbors know who you are. Right. So if you get sick or you don't show up on the front porch, or if you need your mail picked up, that's an easy thing. But when you live in a suburb, that's very difficult. And if you've lived in one of those wonderful neighborhoods with a front porch and neighbors saying hi and walking by, it's very hard to think that you're going to go off to someplace that you're never going to see the people that now you call family.
And I've been to neighborhoods just like that: Roanoke, Virginia; Cedar Rapids, Iowa; just Middle America; Johnson City, Tennessee. It makes you
Exactly.
want to leave the big city, you know?
It
Well,
does.
I
And I
don't
live
know.
in,
Go
Columbus,
ahead.
Ohio, so we still have it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of sitting on the front stoop, and
That,
everybody would be out before it was before air conditioning, and everybody just sat out there, and if somebody was missing, the community all came together. No more.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. There was accountability and love, and you were a neighborhood. It
Right.
was different. And so about 3.5 years ago, my grandmother was, or even earlier than that, we had a 90th birthday party for her. And I'd always thought my mom and dad would move in with us because they had helped me raise the kids. And I'm the oldest daughter. And she was dancing around at the party. And I thought, this woman is never going to die. I mean, like, I have longevity in my family. And this is, most people are talking, oh, my mom's like 90 and she's in the nursing home. And I'm like, grandma's dancing at her party. So this is, with all
How
the
old is
teenagers, this
Grandma?
is going to be a problem. At that point, she was 90. And so then she started to have Alzheimer's and we moved in together. So we have 4 generations in one household. And she's now 95 with dementia and Alzheimer's. And then my parents are almost in late 70s, almost 80. And then my husband and I, and then our kids. I'm sorry?
What help do you get?
Well, we don't get help. My mom is the primary caregiver, and she is just, she's a rock star. My help is to coach her on how to deal with Alzheimer's, dementia, and to not become a prisoner in the home. I think to lessen the guilt and to set the lines and the boundaries. And then the help that we do have is technology. Like I have bidet toilet seats that I've installed in the entire home so that no one has to wash anyone else's rear end. Little things like that. Like that was pretty much a must.
One of
That's a big
those.
thing.
We need one of those.
That's
How do
a
you get
great
one?
idea.
You don't have to change the whole toilet, do you?
No, that's why I created Best Living Tech, because people were asking me about it when I wrote the book on
Where have you been all my life?
And they said, where do you get this stuff? And I'm like, this is like the best thing since sliced bread. My mom, my mom said, Lisa, the water can go out, the heat can go out, but that bidet toilet seat better never go out,
So I know what a bidet is, but does it really work? I mean, you really don't have to wipe yourself?
No, so it is different than what if you've traveled overseas or how you're familiar with a bidet. Like overseas, you have the toilet that you do your business on, and then you transfer to a bidet that washes you, and then there's a little towel in it. That transfer process, one, is very hard for a senior. 2, it's a very vulnerable position to be kind of naked and then transferring over mid stuff or whatever into that. So this actually goes on top of your toilet. You take your regular toilet seat off. It actually becomes the proper height for a senior then. And it is heated. It's antimicrobial, antibacterial, has a night light in it. And then it washes you, and you can choose different positions and different, how fast or intense it is. And then it'll blow dry you. So it is, I travel a lot, and now even at the very nicest hotels, I'd much rather be home with my.
Did you design this or find this?
No, I found it. So there are some ones out there that are like $2,000 to $4,000, and I really didn't think those were appropriate. And I had visited Japan several years ago, and they had these all over, even in the public restrooms. So about 5 years ago, I researched it and found it and got one for my husband. And what I found was that people would come to our house, and we'd have 5 bathrooms, and they would make their way up into my master bedroom to go to do their business. And I thought, this is really odd, like really weird. So I found out from one of my good friends that, it was the talk of the town. Everybody wanted to use it. So when we decided to move in together, I thought, oh, Lord, my mother-in-law had broken her wrist, and my sister-in-laws had to literally bathe her and wash her private parts and help her go to the restroom. And I thought, I love my parents and my grandmother. I want them to be with me, but I'm not a caregiver by nature. I'm a designer by nature. And so I have to know where my boundaries are, and wiping someone's rear end is not one of them, let alone how undignified that is for the person having it done.
Sure.
So we always talk about independence and dignity and freedom and all that. This one hits all the spots.
So you have a catalog with all these kinds of products, right?
I do. I have an online website that we curate all the products. It's called bestlivingtech.com.
Oh, yeah, I think I mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I talk about a lot of these products in my book, Hive, that tells you the design tricks and then how I implemented the technology and then some of the boundaries of living in a 4-generation home or multi-generational home or someone with Alzheimer's.
Adrienne, I really like this lady.
I do too.
So your first book, The Future is Here, Senior Living Reimagined, that's where you talk about the concepts. And then your new book, Hive, The Simple Guide to Multi-Generational Living. Explain the difference between these two books.
So the difference, the first one is kind of the shot across the bow, was introducing homes, facilities, if you would call it. I call that the F word, but the homes that people stay in that are, they might have 100 residents or 400 residents, right, or memory care. Convincing my clients why it's so important to be able to utilize technology to allow us to be more connected, even as a family member. It's easier for me to get a report from daycare on a kid than it is to get a report on my grandma if she was staying in a home. So, how can we really leverage that and stay connected? So I talk a lot about all the technology that's out there and then what's coming down the road, which is 3D printed food so you don't choke on it, induction looping technology for being able to hear better, just all kinds of really cool stuff. So it's a little more futuristic, although it has some tangible things. And then Hive is really it's a simple guide to multi-generational living, but it's our social experiment on paper. Like if I wanted to tell you all the mistakes that I made and all the good things that we did, this is what the book does. It just puts it out there, and it's not perfect. It's a little bit like pizza. Everybody has their own kind of recipe and who they like the best, but you can take what you want and hopefully it'll impact you positively.
Wow. I didn't even understand a lot of what you said. It went over my head. How about you, Adrienne?
Oh, I got it.
The
but
futuristic
I'm a designer, stuff. So
I am so excited. So excited. Can we take the bidet with us to a hotel?
You cannot. It gets hooked up. You could take your squatty potty to the hotel, but I don't know whether you want to carry that around. Yeah. Squatty potty is another, very inexpensive but helpful tool.
I remember when we had Hurricane Sandy, and some of my friends had to move into a hotel for a while, and they had to take their seats with them.
Oh yeah,
easy. Yeah. You'd think that hotels would know by now that they needed to have some.
Yeah, we still travel with a seat sometimes because
Yeah,
they don't, and they really. It's amazing to me that they don't understand. But we had lots of clients down in Florida and in Houston that, for several weeks, sometimes almost a month, the residents had been moved out to hotels, and it was very challenging.
Where are you located?
I'm located in Columbus, Ohio. We work in really all over the world, but the majority of our work is in North America.
Okay.
So your company, Mosaic Design Studio, is the provider of design services, not a manufacturer?
Perfect. Yep, that's exactly right. So we have no ties to any of the manufacturers.
You connect
as a design studio, yeah, we're not the middleman. We're more of your consultant that we figure out what you're trying to accomplish, and then we pull together who we think is the right people to support you in doing that.
Do you ever look for something that doesn't exist that you need to maybe invent or get someone to invent?
Yes, I do that all the time. So I developed
what's the latest one?
A line of did a line of flooring last year. This year I'm working on some furniture, and then I'm getting ready to attend this week. Is it this week? Next week. Aging 2.0. And Aging 2.0 curates these awesome contests to figure out new tech that can be utilized for seniors from all around the world.
Oh my.
So I'm working with them, and then Abundance 360 Singularity University, which is kind of a futurist group developing technology.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. You are my
But
new
just as a
favorite person.
consultant.
Well,
Listen, we're going to take a break. So don't go away. We have a lot more to talk about with my wonderful guest. So hang on. Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today, or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere, and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're back with Lisa Cini and Adrienne Gruberg. And I'm just having so much fun talking about technology. I just told my wife during the break, honey, we're getting a bidet. She goes, no. I said, yes. You'll like it. It's good. You don't need to wipe
She will
yourself
love
anymore.
you. I guarantee she will love you.
Well, everyone has in their mind their own concept of what a bidet is, water squirting up in you, stuff like that. But I'm anxious. So that's going to be the first thing I buy as soon as we get off the air.
Fantastic.
I wanted to make a comment before we went to break. I remember when my father turned 80, we got him a computer, and that was a while ago. That was in the late 1990s, and he had never sat down at a computer. He was totally daunted by it. And you are now coming up with a generation of people who will actually embrace the technology that you're coming up with rather than be fearful of it. So
yeah, I assume you have iPads and computers on your list. Yes,
we do. Yeah. Even what I found is that so my grandmother's 95. So if you think about all the different technological changes that she's lived through, we often think that she's not going to be able to adapt, and maybe even giggle a little bit when she goes to answer the remote control when it's really the phone, or vice versa. And you know what? Yeah. And I was in the hotel the other day, and they said, you can use your phone as a remote. And I thought, how arrogant am I, and what an idiot that she just doesn't have any kind of restrictions or restraints or biases or prejudices on her. She just, whatever I hand her, and if I tell her this is what it is, she just utilizes it and rolls with the punches, from going from, horse and buggy to automobiles to trains to planes to now, my one son is in California in school, and my daughter is in Italy in school, and we will put earbuds in her, and then she can see both of them, similar to a Skype call or what we're doing right now. And she is completely there, 110% engaged. She doesn't say, well, I don't understand how this is working, or I don't get this, or where are they at? And she has severe dementia, but 100% there, because love kind of comes through. That connection really matters. And I think when you can do anything that you can utilize technology and it provides connection, the learning curve is it's a much easier thing to do.
Yeah.
I was at the T-Mobile store the other day, and they had something that looked like, well, forget what it looked like. It was virtual reality. You put on these glasses, and of course there was nothing in it, so I couldn't see anything. But tell us about how virtual reality is going to affect all of this stuff.
Well, virtual reality will, especially if you're staying at home or you're a caregiver and taking care of someone at home. Right now, what they've been doing with augmented reality and virtual reality is that they've been training it for folks that have clinical depression or PTSD coming from the war. And I've actually tried this. So they put me at the last abundance kind of futurist conference that I was at. They put these glasses on me, and I'm just at a hotel. I'm walking on the floor, and they put ear things on, and all of a sudden, what I see is this plank across a very probably 12 feet. I'm on a platform, and then there's a plank, and then if you imagine Indiana Jones, it just goes down and down and down on the side, like I'm going to die if I fall off this plank, right? And they said, you just need to get to the other side of the plank. And I almost couldn't do it mentally. I knew in my head that I was on a regular hotel floor. Everything was flat. There was no risk of me getting hurt or falling or anything. Your senses take over. And so I finally got past myself and I went to the other side. When I got done, they said, Lisa, we just want to let you know that all the scientific data shows that when you're in a stressful environment like that, your body reads the stress as absolutely real. And when you're in a happy environment, that's the flip. That's the positive. Your body reads it as happy. So if my grandma wants to travel to Rome and she's never got to, I can put on the augmented reality or virtual reality glasses, and she can take her trip to Rome or Paris or go to her favorite vacation spot or explore something. So in the data is showing that it's really reducing anxiety. It's making folks much happier. And if you have a happy person you're taking care of, then your life is a lot happier.
Sure. We've had a lot of dementia people and Alzheimer's people. Not one of them has mentioned this as a form of therapy or treatment. Is that amazing?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe they're just not into the high tech stuff.
Not yet.
I don't think so. I think it's a little scary. It's kind of people use the tools that they have in their tool belt. So, if you have a screwdriver, you're going to try and use that, a hammer, that kind of thing.
You're one of the most exciting guests we've had in a while. So just anytime we talk about the future, not minimizing any of my other guests, of course, but I'm a science fiction buff, so you're extra exciting because anytime we talk about the future, I remember Disneyland in the 60s where they had the House of Tomorrow. That just seems so wow. Or the Jetsons cartoon shows, So what do you mean when you say, how do you age in place on your own terms?
So what I mean by that, so first of all, the best thing that I could ever do is put myself out of a job doing senior living homes. And I think if I could do that, everyone says, aren't you competing against yourself? And I'm like, no. If you care about what you're doing and you're mission driven in senior living as a designer or a caregiver or an operator, the best thing that I could do is we could figure out how to do this in a different format. And I wouldn't have to do that anymore. For my family, for myself, for everyone I love and know. So aging on place on your own terms means that with the use of telemedicine, and I'm working with a couple companies on that right now, that you're no longer going to be restricted in the next couple years or even right now with having to go to the doctor. Let's say you're spending part of your year in Florida, but you might have cancer, you might have a situation or follow-ups, and you have to go back to your doctor. Now you're able to do telemedicine visits. So you're able to carry all your medical records, actually speak to your doctors or nurses wherever you want, wherever you are in the world. They can get paid for it. You can get what you need. So that offers you a ton of flexibility. Wow. If you're able to have technology to be able to assist you in the things that as you age, you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And it might be reminders or an automatic shut off on the stove or Alexa. Alexa's basically a personal assistant by Amazon. We have it set up in our home. We have trackers on my mom's phone and iPad and the car keys. And she can go to Alexa and say, Alexa, can you please ring my phone? Really? Otherwise, those things can get very frustrated. And that's a real simple hack. Autonomous vehicles. you've already got vehicles that park themselves and will slow down and stop you from crashing into somebody else on the highway. But as you get more and more autonomous vehicles, or Lyft has a fantastic senior program that they vetted the drivers more than Uber for seniors, that I can still stay at home because now I don't have to worry about that I can't drive anymore. I can have a car come pick me up, or I can have Lyft. One of the most exciting things that tells me that, people are really getting it is IKEA Furniture just bought TaskRabbit, so that they now have an entire worldwide network of people to put together the furniture for you and deliver it.
Well,
Right.
I wish I always had that person.
Yes, doesn't everybody? I'm sitting in an IKEA office right now.
What if they sell these all put together?
That's exactly it. So it's your data health too with your health metrics. I've got on my site, and this is just a charity thing, but we've got something called Cardia, and it's $99, and you put your 2 fingers on it, and it's an app, and it takes an FDA-approved EKG, and it can predict about 5 days before you have a stroke or a heart attack. And this is especially important because most females don't exhibit the same kind of symptoms, and most females are caregivers.
And you gave me a great idea about Alexa. I've got it. I never use it. I should give it to my mother-in-law who has dementia, who's always calling me. Now she can call Alexa and say, would
That's
you
exactly right.
What other things can you tell Alexa to do that would benefit a dementia patient?
So Alexa can play music. Alexa can hook up to the phone. Yeah, Alexa can control the temperature and the lights.
Does it need a Pandora account to play the music, or it just plays it from somewhere?
You can get it without a Pandora account. You can also get it to, so I wouldn't advise that she try to set it up on her own.
No.
It needs a little, it needs a little bit of someone that knows what they're doing.
Right. But there's Amazon,
once you have,
it's hooked up to Amazon's music. So
that's exactly right. Alexa can order your groceries for you.
There's a monthly fee for that, right?
Yeah. If you do the Pandora music,
well, we already have Pandora, so maybe that'd be the best.
Right. It's very minimal. You can hook up, let's say she wants to order groceries. Amazon now delivers groceries.
Wow.
So you could
just
deliver them.
Foods, yeah.
That's exactly right. You can do to-do lists. You can figure out how to do medication reminders. There's lots of different things. This is that IoT, the Internet of Things.
It's like
that's really
a companion there, almost a robot.
Well, I sort of imagine myself a little bit down the line as a single. As I'm a widow and I live in this big space by myself, and I've got my Alexa, and I'll go, "Good morning, Alexa."
That's exactly right.
And I just figured as time goes on, I will have coffee with Alexa. Yes. I will always
that's
have
exactly right.
a companion to talk to. I hope it's not only Alexa, but
no, but if you have dementia or Alzheimer's, I mean, you might actually think you're really talking to a real person. I know they have robot dogs, and they think that they're real dogs.
I was going to ask how big robotics was going to play.
It's going to be enormous. I mean, from everybody remembers the Rombo and how the vacuum cleaner that goes in the house. But if you look at Alexa and you look at what Google's doing, like I have a robotic cat and dog for my grandmother here at the house. Now we do have a dog, but the dogs will go away. And so like when grandma's kind of agitated, they might walk away from her. Right. The cat doesn't. She's still able to communicate, and it helps her with her sundowners. It doesn't ever have to be fed or taken out. It really is very interactive, and the AI on it is incredibly good. Now, they're developing, the Japanese and the Koreans have some pretty intense robotic companion pets that they're developing, ones that look like real people. They creep me out a little bit, but I have to be honest, they creep me out a little bit. But, I think it's all going to be relative. What they're finding is the ones that look like real people get a little creepy. The ones that are more cartoony are easier to accept.
More like dogs.
So like an avatar.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Because you kind of understand that they're not really real, but you can still
yeah.
develop a relationship with them and then be helpful.
So you're four generations in a multi-generational household. What's that like? How do you survive?
How do we survive?
Like the
I
youngest one.
yeah. So my kids actually love it. They're off at college now, but they did several years here with the grandparents. And I spoke to my daughter today, and she's like, "I love my old people. I miss them. I can't wait till Christmas break." Um, it's interesting. The day that they moved in with us, Adelina, and my kids eat. It's not like that they don't eat and they don't, have a decent lifestyle. But she opened up the refrigerator door and she said, "Food, there's food in the refrigerator." And I said, "We always have food." And she goes, "No, this is like grandma food. Like all I have to do is take it out of the refrigerator and eat it. I don't have to prepare it. I don't have to." So, those kinds of things and being able to have the wisdom of a grandparent when you get home from your homework or you have a bad game. And I think there's a difference between a parent. There's a tension, right? Or a desire to problem solve. And when you have a grandparent or even a great grandparent in their case, there's that just listening, which I think as a parent, I don't do as well as they do. That excitement of just being gracious and grateful that they're sitting with me and how beautiful you look. And that was beautiful that you just sang that or played the piano, or, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you have to do that homework," where I'm like, "Get your homework done." There's definitely, and my parents and grandmother love the energy that it brings into the house with all the other kids.
Dynamic. Listen, I'm having a
Then we
great
do have
time here.
chickens and bees and things like that too.
We need to take another break, so don't go away. We will be right back.
65.7 million adults in the United States are unpaid caregivers. And we do this because we take care of our family. We love our family. We want to make sure they're getting the right care. But just because you're a caregiver doesn't mean you have to give up your life. I'm joined now by best-selling author Dave Nassaney. Good morning to you. Good morning. Thank you so much for this is really interesting because, a lot of times when people think about being a caregiver for a family member, they feel like, okay, I have to give up everything that I'm doing in my life, but that's not the case.
That's not the case. Unfortunately, it's the case for many who are caregivers. But,
right.
But, they just don't realize that, like the airlines tell us, put your oxygen mask on first.
Okay.
And then you can help your loved ones with their mask. On the other hand, caregivers just give and give and give, and then there's nothing left to give, and then they burn out, and now they're both in trouble.
Right. And so with this, you have some things that people can do to to reclaim their caregiver sanity. I like the way you put that. All right, so what's something that people can do in order to do that?
Well, obviously, the first thing that they can do is put their needs first, like the airlines told us. I mean, what a great metaphor for all of life. If you can't take care of you, how are you going to take care of anybody else?
That's very true.
And the other thing is ask for help. So many people, they think that asking for help, I'm talking about caregivers, that it would make them a failure as a caregiver. I'm a caregiver, I should be able to do this. But no, nobody can do it. You need help. So you have to reach out your hand and ask people for help. And when they do offer to help, be specific. Tell them, I need lettuce at the store. Can you pick it up at 6 o'clock? No? Well, how about tomorrow at 7? Don't let them off the hook. Be specific.
What do you say to people who are watching this? They're taking care of a parent or a loved one or something like a husband or a wife or something like that. And they say, "Oh, if I do that, I feel guilty."
Yes, guilt is a biggie, but I like to say that there's undeserved guilt. And I think of Sanford and Son, Fred Sanford, how he'd always say, "Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you." And he could get his son Lamont to do anything he wanted. But that's undeserved guilt, you see. Guilt is like a traffic cop. Say, "Hey, are you doing something wrong?" To stop and ponder.
Right.
And if you aren't, then just throw that guilt away, just like you would a dirty diaper.
And that's a good thing to know that, you don't need to feel guilty in order just to maybe give just a little quality, maybe just a soaking bath or something like that. Just
Or
little
a
small
trip
things.
to Starbucks,
Right.
or a massage, or a manicure, whatever.
Just small things that'll give you that time you need for yourself.
Yeah, well, that's why I wrote the book.
And that's okay. Tell everybody how they can get their hands on this book.
Go to Amazon, and I'm going to steal a line from The Godfather. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. What we're going to do is we're cutting the Kindle price from $10 down to 99 cents.
Oh, okay.
And that's a 90% reduction in case you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Just go and type in my name, David Nassaney, or the title of the book. It's My Life Too. And it's only for the Kindle. We have paperbacks also. And so we also have a book signing at Mount Pleasant, Barnes & Noble. So come on out, we'll rap, we'll hug, we'll kiss, we'll cry, I don't know. And you don't even have to be a caregiver. Go buy a book for a caregiver you know. Not only will you bless them, but you'll probably save their life.
Right.
Because a third of caregivers actually die before their loved ones do. That's incredible. Wow. And the ones that don't die, well, they just get sicker than the ones they're caring for, and then they eventually need a caregiver themselves.
Right, and that goes back to what you said. If you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of someone else?
It's like Elton John that said, it's a sad, sad situation.
Yeah, definitely.
What do we do?
All right, Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know about this, ways that we can get our caregiver sanity back.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And we're back with Adrienne Gruberg and Lisa Cini. And you're just making caregivers' lives easier. You're reducing their stress. You're making it more tolerable. You're a hero.
Oh, well, thanks. I'll tell you, I seen what my mom does every day, and then what my grandmothers did, taking care of their parents. It's a hard job. It is a hard job, and the job is extended. You get your kids for 18 years, and now you're getting your parents for longer than that in a lot of cases.
Well, my wife is very independent, but and she does a lot of things herself, including, her toiletries things. But, every now and then I'll smell something and I can tell that maybe she missed something. So that's why I love the bidet personally, because it's an embarrassing situation. My wife and I are very close, but it's even embarrassing and awkward for me to mention that to her, as it would be if shoes were on the other foot. The dignity is so important. We want to just retain that dignity between, especially spousal caregivers.
Oh yes, definitely.
So the ins and outs of Alzheimer and dementia, that's a little different than you don't only concentrate on that, right? You just take care of all the type of needs of disabilities.
Correct. And universal design helps us to do a lot of the different types of needs. But Alzheimer's dementia is one of those interesting situations where, as you study Parkinson's or stroke or autism or being paralyzed, there's so many different things that runs through that you can apply. So it's a lot like when we did, when everybody did these curb cuts in all of the sidewalks, and people thought, oh gosh, we don't even have anyone handicapped in our neighborhood. Why am I paying taxes to do that? It sounds horrible, but it's true, right? Yeah. So, but the exponential benefits to that was every kid riding a bike, everybody with a stroller. So many people gained benefit, and part of this is figuring out how to meet somebody where they're at.
Yeah. Well, where they're going to be, if you're not a caregiver, it's only one, tomorrow you could become a caregiver, and tomorrow you could need a caregiver. Right. So, we're planning for the future.
We are. And, it's anything from brain hacks to having the right kind of handrails. We promote a handrail that goes right around the toilet paper holder, because that really helps with the center of gravity versus the long back ones that you have out there. I want anything that somebody can be more independent and dignified, and no matter what kind of physical issue that they have, whether it's arthritis or anything, the more you move, the better your body is.
Right.
Yeah. So what kind of ideas do you have for the shower?
So shower, we also have a handicap. Well, it's not a handicap. It's a bar that goes right around the control for the shower. So when usually falls happen when you're kind of maneuvering and getting the water on and off, and yet you're not going to reach backwards to grab a bar. That's how you slip and fall. So if you can hold onto the bar right in front of you as you're adjusting that really helps. If someone's a caregiver, what I would recommend is when they have the shower installed or adapted, is that they actually install the controls almost outside of the shower. That way you can start the shower and turn it off without getting wet.
Good idea.
That's a very good idea.
So those are some of the little things. Night lights.
You sort of live in an incubator with those
I
four
do.
generations.
I have a living laboratory. Yeah, a living lab. And then when I was in-house at the company I work for, they made us stay in the homes we designed with the residents. So that made a big difference.
You're giving away a 21-point checklist on how to age in place to all podcast listeners. Explain that.
Yes. So it's little things that basically I learned through the process, and some that I already knew that might help them to do this a little bit better. And it might be something as simple as make sure that your handrails are a contrasting color from your wall. If you can't see them, you can't use them that well.
Yeah.
Simple things like that, or just don't argue with somebody that is in a different reality than you.
Correct.
Now, I have an idea for you. Maybe you already know this,
yes.
But I've been going away a lot lately, so I've been having a caregiver come in to sleep with my wife, like a slumber party almost, because she's fine during the daytime. She's very independent, and it's only after, she goes to bed after she's had her sleeping pills and she's kind of groggy and she thinks she has to go to the bathroom, and then, trying to transfer when you're groggy, that's when she's fallen and stuff like that, and it's not easy getting her up. So I installed another hanging bar. We have a canopy bed, so that helps a lot. But I didn't even know this existed, but I found a camera that I can mount to the wall right in the bedroom, and it pans. You open it up with your cell phone, and you can pan it 360 degrees. You can zoom in and out, and you can hear the audio. So while I'm away, I can, anytime I want, to see how Charlene's doing. Oh, there she is in bed, because she's in bed most of the time. So and we have cameras around the house,
That's
but obviously
wonderful.
none of them in the bedroom for obvious reasons. But when I'm not here, I put that one in, and when I am here, I turn it around to the wall so that hackers can't see what we do in the bedroom.
Yes,
there are hackers out there.
There
so have
are
you heard of that?
Well, I will tell you that's wonderful, and that was one of the things that we did. And people always get so freaked out about privacy, but my grandmother was getting very agitated if my mother left and went to do things on her own, which she needed to. And I was pretty blunt about it. I said, look, Mom, if you become a prisoner in our home, then Grandma will have to go someplace, because I'm not going to lose you and have you have a horrible quality of life to give her a nice quality of life. That it doesn't work that way. So we got a camera, very similar to what you're saying. And so now if she's out to dinner with my dad or going to a movie, instead of getting really nervous and agitated if I'm not home to check on her and wonder if she's upset, she just turns on the camera, and 90% of the time she's sitting in a recliner watching TV, completely fine. But it helps her not have that guilt that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And it also makes it so she's not a prisoner.
Yeah, because as you can imagine, I'm out there a lot, doing a lot of good, and my wife was very jealous of things that took me away from her in the beginning, and I was worried about her being supportive about this. But the very first show we went on was in Palm Springs, and she, was just close to us, so she was able to come. She was able to come to those faraway places because it's a grueling thing. It's one city after the other, and you have to get up early and hotel to hotel. But the minute she went on the show, and maybe you saw that a couple of weeks ago, Adrienne, where she was actually on one of the shows, she kind of changed and she became very, very supportive. And so, as a reward to her for being so understanding and supportive, we're going to Hawaii for 4 weeks. And so that's what we're looking forward to, which is her favorite place to stay.
Well, of course, you have to promote the book in Hawaii for 4 weeks.
Oh, yes, I will be on the shows in Hawaii, or at least I will try to be. And so what I'll do is on my phone, as often as I think about it, I'll move the camera to the left and to the right and up and down so that she can see, oh, he's watching me, and she'll wave, just a reminder that she's not alone.
So it's
a little wink, basically.
Yeah, it makes a little humming sound when it turns. So it's like, and the dog notices it,
Hello. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That is
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's technology,
Yeah, there are so
because
many things. It
I was
is.
just feeling I had no peace about leaving her alone at nighttime, even though she would prefer to be alone day and night. And I says, you fell a couple of times, and I can't do it. So I'm paying a lot of money to have someone spend the night. They're giving me a reduced rate. It's like $7 an hour. It's a bargain, but still,
Whoa.
it adds up. And all she's doing is sleeping in
Right.
the same house, and so it's worth it to
Right.
me. If I can afford to go and spend money in a hotel and be on television, and I can certainly spend a little money to have somebody watch her so that I can have peace of mind.
Exactly. Peace of mind is everything, isn't it?
Yep.
Now, there's
And
lots
even
of
though
neat
she
things
says
over.
she doesn't mind, I think she feels better knowing that someone's there if something happens.
I think so. I would have to say so.
Well, what didn't we cover? What do you want to add to everything that we've discussed that I didn't mention?
I think the only other thing that I might be able to add or help is that I follow a love design method. So that means it's light, optimize, ease, and visual. And it's been pretty easy for people to think about. So light, have as much natural light as possible. If you have to have, if your room is dark, make sure that you have light bulbs that are mimicking the sunshine, and you can get those pretty easily now. You can even get them so that they'll mimic the circadian rhythm and help,
Mm-hmm.
your brain turn on properly. We have one called Stack that we've been trialing out that actually has a motion sensor. So it'll let me know when grandma's gone in and out of certain rooms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's inside the light bulb. So
Circadian
that's pretty
mean?
cool.
Can you define that
I'm sorry.
word? Circadian. Circadian. That's a word I never
Circadian.
heard.
Circadian
Circadian.
rhythms.
Yeah, what is
Balance.
that?
Balance. Ears.
Hmm. Okay, girls. Well, I can't believe how fast this hour has gone. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How can you be reached, Lisa, if somebody wants to contact you and get that 21-step free report?
Yes, and we're also going to give away to all your listeners, if they type in on the website Care 10, they'll get 10% discount on any product on bestlivingtech.com.
Care 10. Okay, I remember that one. One bidet.
One bidet coming up. I'm telling you, you're never going to turn back. It is the most awesome thing.
Yes, I know. Adrienne, how can we get a hold of you
It's
at the Caregiver Space?
Adrienne, ADRIENNE, at thecaregiverspace.org. Thecaregiverspace.org is the website, and the Caregiver Space is the Facebook page.
Cool. And again, a reminder, all our live shows become recorded pod and video casts on our website, caregiverscaregiver.com. And if it's easy to remember, DaveTheCaregiver.com also works. And while you're there, take our short quiz to see if you're a candidate for burnout. And just for doing that, I'm going to send you my first ebook absolutely free, $10 value, still getting rave reviews, one arm, one leg, 100 words, overcoming unbelievable hardships. My wife's amazing story of surviving a devastating stroke that robbed her of her speech, paralyzed her on the right side. 21 years now. Man, I couldn't do that. She's amazing. She just makes us normal people look like whiners and complainers. So Lisa, Adrienne, everyone listening, thank you again. So until next Wednesday at noon Pacific time, may God richly bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio show. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at noon Pacific time and anytime afterwards on podcast to catch more of Dave and his tips to caregivers on avoiding burnout and surviving the grief process right here on the Worldwide Block Talk Radio Network. Goodbye.